sweaty.
My guest on the dojo today joins us from the world of anime and stage and screen. He has worked on anime such as Babylon, Baki, Devil's Line, and more, and has most recently voiced one of our most favourite characters in Shenmue the Animation. Today, I introduce to you the voice of Goro Miashi, James Marler. So, James, welcome to the dojo. How's it going?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's going great.
Excellent. I'm pleased to have you on. Voice of Goro, one of the most interesting Shenmue characters that we've got. But we'll talk about him in a minute. Before we get into Shenmue itself and the anime, could you sort of talk me through how you came into the voiceover industry and specifically working on anime?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I've always, been acting and things like that. Started, kind of like middle school and high school, and then, doing theater and stuff like that. And then as I got older, I just, kept pursuing it. It's primarily just doing indie stuff and more on camera stuff. What happened is I was working for an actor at the time. And
Yeah.
I was going with him to different conventions and everything so he can do his autograph signing. And I saw all these voice actors, from all the shows that we all watched growing up and everything. And I was like, wow, that's such a cool profession. Like, that's so neat. It never crossed my mind that would have been something I wanted to get into. And so one day I woke up and I was like, I think I'd like to, pursue this. And then,
Yeah.
I kind of went about it. And but yeah, that's kind of what inspired me was that, I had already been doing acting and things like that. And, just from meeting all these other voice actors through the con circuit and everything, that's kind of what inspired me to get into anime. And
How did you find sort of the difference from sort of say stage acting to sort of going into a voiceover booth? Was it quite a natural transitioning for you?
so, I mean, acting is acting, right? But when you're on camera, you can use your body to convey a lot of expression as well. The first time I got in the booth and I started recording for anime and stuff, like anime recording is a unique skill set. It's it's something that you have to be doing in order to get better and better at it. You know what I mean? Like the first time I was in the booth working for an audition or working on a show or anything like that, you know, I'm like, oh, there's the timestamp. I got to pay attention to this. I got to worry about the script. I got to worry about so like, I guess the best way to put it is like, it's like the first time you learn to drive. Like when you get in your car, you're like, all right, I know how to drive. I check my mirrors, do this and that. And so there was just a lot that was on my mind to be aware of. And, there's the more practice and got better at it and stuff like that. And I think probably for me, one of the challenges was just making sure that I stayed on mic. You got to stay on mic, right? That was probably one of the challenges because sometimes I get pretty animated depending on what the scene is. So they had to keep telling me, James, make sure you're on mic. And I was like, oh, okay.
And sort of coming into that, what are some of the notable animes that you've worked on?
Off the top of my head, I've been on Haikyuu season 3. I worked on
Yeah.
Baki. I've worked on
Yeah.
Shenmue, obviously. I'm just trying To Love Ru, Saint Seiya. I'm trying to think of like the big ones that people would know. Ahiro no Sora. Yeah, those are the ones that are just coming off the top of my head right now.
So from those animes that you've worked on, have you got any particularly favorite characters out of those that stand out?
It's so hard to pick one favorite. I enjoy doing all of them, but I think one of the ones I had the most fun on was Baki. That one was really fun. I think that was like, well, I almost fainted in the booth.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, because there's so much, fighting and stuff like that. So there were some pretty intense scenes that we did, and I just remember like, we would do a take. And I'm just like beat. And I remember I felt like really lightheaded. I was like, whoa. And then the director was like, you need a second? I was like, let me just get a quick sip of water. He's like, everything was great. Let's get one more at it. I'm like, all right, let's do it. So
Luckily, you didn't faint, which is always
yeah,
good.
no, I didn't pass out. So That would have been interesting, though. That would have been a good story as well.
They might have kept it in, hitting the floor.
Just hear a real big thud.
Yeah,
What was that?
but those booths do get hot though as well. I remember from when I was recording in bands, they get really, really warm. So I can definitely see how that can happen. Okay, coming into Shenmue, had you heard of Shenmue the games before working on the anime?
I've heard of the franchise before, so I've heard of the game. I wasn't super familiar with it. It's a funny story that it's actually one of my friends. It's his favorite video game ever. His
Really?
favorite video game ever. So he used to talk about how it was all his favorite video game and everything like that. And so I was familiar with it. I hadn't played it, but I was
Yeah,
familiar with it. But I did not play the game or anything like that at the time.
fair enough. And what was your friend's reaction when obviously you could tell him that you were working on the anime version?
So when, because I couldn't, we couldn't say, I didn't say anything to anybody, but I
Yeah.
knew, I started probing him. I was like, we were just talking. I was like, oh yeah, my favorite game was this. I was like, what was your favorite game? He's like, oh, I like Shenmue. And I was like, oh yeah, that's right. And I forgot you said that. So, I just kept that in the back of my head. And then when the time was right, I was like, dude, did you see that they're making an anime? He goes, what? No way. And then he didn't even know. He wasn't aware of it. And then, then I dropped the bomb on him, and he was like, are you messing with me? I was like, no, man, I'm not messing with you. And so he was stoked. He's a really good supporter of me. So he was, it was pretty cool. I mean, I could tell there was a bit of, not jealousy in like the mean way, but there was a little envy, like that is just,
Yeah.
and for me, it was very flattering that, he was just as excited for me as I was to work on the show.
Fantastic. Has your friend seen any of the episodes yet?
What's funny? I have not talked to him in a couple weeks. I mentioned to him that it was coming out and everything. And Goro, I don't think made an appearance until episode 3. So I think
Yeah.
the last time we talked was on episode 1. But I know he's watching it. I know he's watching it, and he's excited about it and everything. But I do need to follow up with him. I'll say, hey man, what do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd
Yeah.
be very interested to hear what your friend's thoughts are on it. Okay, so can you sort of talk me through how you became involved in Shenmue the anime in terms of the audition process, and then specifically how you got the part as Goro?
So I was working on another show. I don't think I can talk about that show at the moment, but I was working on
Okay.
another show, and with that specific director, and I was recording all my, I was doing all my sessions and everything like that, and then once I finished out my character or whatever, I think a week goes by, about a
Yeah.
week, and then I get a phone call uh, to audition, and they didn't specify what the project was for or anything like that. They just wanted me to come in and audition. So I came in, and then when I got into the booth, that's when they told me, hey, you're going to be auditioning for Shenmue the animation. And I think at the time of my audition, not all the anime was finished. So
Yeah.
there were some scenes that we were doing that were still in the early sketches.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so, yeah, so I went in there and I auditioned. They had me read for several different characters in the show.
Yeah.
Even characters that you wouldn't think would match someone's wheelhouse, right? Just
Hmm.
reading for a few different, only lasted probably about 20 minutes or so. That was it. And so when I left, I was like, oh man, yeah, I definitely didn't book that. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's certain auditions where you're like, dude, I nailed that. That was great. But then when I left there, I didn't know how, the director's great, by the way. So this wasn't, I'm not saying anything about him, but at the end of it, when it was done, he's like, all right, thanks very much. You're done. And I was like, oh, okay, great, cool. And so I just walking out, and you get stuck in your head on things like, oh, maybe I should have done this.
Yeah.
Maybe I should have. I should have. And you replay in your mind, you're like, oh, that's what was going on. You know what I mean? So, but I was just grateful for the opportunity. To be honest with you, I was just so stoked. And in my head, I was like, I can't wait until this comes out, because I'm gonna get to say I had the opportunity to audition for that show.
Yeah.
And just to be considered to audition was just a huge, it was very a humbling experience. And then, so a week later, I'm actually on set. I was working on this, an on-camera project. I was doing a film,
Yeah.
and in between scenes, I look at my phone, and I had like a bunch of, a missed call. I had emails, and basically just, hey, congratulations, we want to cast you as Goro. When would we give us a call so we can set up your recording time? And
Amazing.
that happened like literally a week after my audition. And then I think like the very next day or so, I was in the booth recording.
Wow, that's a really quick turnaround.
Yeah, I was really surprised. So
Is that normal in anime to have that quicker turnaround?
I mean, I think it all depends. I think it all depends on how fast they need to get the dub out. You
Right.
know what I mean, or what the crunch time is on that. I know. I can't speak for everybody, but I know there are sometimes I'll audition for a project maybe at the beginning of the year, and you don't hear anything, and then like 6 months later, all of a sudden, hey, we want you to come in and record for the show, and you're like, oh wow, I booked something. You know what I mean, like.
Yeah,
So, and then, sometimes, you'll audition, and then like a day or two later, you'll get notification, but a lot of times, there are some times where, when I'm submitting for an audition, in the audition, it will say, hey, we start recording, next week, and
yeah,
we go until, X date. So there
yeah,
are sometimes I know, but again, if you're working on a show that only releases one episode every week or something like that, you may come in 1 month and do the first 3 episodes, and then next month you'll come in and do 3 more episodes. I think it just all depends on the project and everything like that.
that's fair. I'm very interested to know because that just strike me as a very sort of quick turnaround. But that's fair. It makes absolute sense, dependent on the project, etc. So, stepping into recording, what was the character brief you were given for Goro, who in Shenmue circles is one of the more extravagant or affluent characters there are?
Okay. So the director did a great. So I was working both with the Japanese director and the English director at the same time, simultaneously, right?
Okay, yeah,
So yeah, I mean, they gave me a breakdown that he's kind of this arrogant punk bully, and he tries to shake down, the main hero of the story, and
yeah,
later gets a little humbled. You know what I mean?
mm,
And now he wants to be his buddy.
yeah,
Um, and so I think in the first couple hours, it was really just trying to find the right character, the right tone for that guy. And, when I found out that I was playing him, when I found I got casted as Goro, I went and I just kind of looked to see how much information I could get about him, because it
yeah,
was important to me, you know, uh, I, I know that this franchise is so important to so many people. So to me, it was very important that I did a good job for them. And at the end of the day, some people, they're like super stoked. They're like, dude, awesome. And then some people, they're just not happy. And that's okay. I'm not upset about that, but overall, you want to do a good job. So I try to do my due diligence. But again, the Japanese director and the English director, they have, they do, you can't take all the credit for, I
hmm
guess, the character, because it's a collaborative process,
yeah,
with the directors and everything like that. And so, I just did my own research about him. So when I went in there, I had a general idea, and then they, had the idea of how they wanted him portrayed in um, this storytelling of him, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
just together as a team, because that's really what it is. It's a team effort. Um, uh, you know, that's the Goro you got. It was the one you saw on TV. So
And a very good Goro he was as well. What sort of things did you do for your due diligence in terms of research? Like what finding YouTube videos? How did you sort of find out more about him?
I mean, with anything, I did a Google search, and I
Yeah,
started just researching the franchise more.
hmm
If I had more time, I was like, I want to go play the game,
yeah,
and so, but I had a general idea of the story,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And which I was like, dude, this is such a, like, when I started reading more into the game and like the story, I was like, wow, this is a good game, and like there's this whole thing of like how bad voice acting for, in the game is like kind
mm,
of a staple point. You know what I mean? It's
yeah,
like the game is so good that people are willing to forgive some of you know the little things here or there.
yeah. I'm with you.
Yeah, and so, I was just researching the game and stuff, and I was like, "Wow, there's 3 of these games," and but so yeah, that's what I did. Google search, and I was just looking up different, YouTube videos and everything. And there's obviously more of character development in the anime
Yeah,
for Goro than there is in the game. you know?
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and you get a little bit more of Goro's backstory and his history and everything, and find out a little bit more about him than the game gives you. And luckily, I had a great, there's a great team of people that were able to help paint that picture for me. And so, um, yeah, so I just took what I could and as much as I could about him. And, you have to trust the directors and what they want to do. And so, but it wasn't far off from what, he was originally portrayed as.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I think of Goro in the games to what we got in the anime, I would say very, very close with some small changes here or there. But
Yeah.
that's fine. I like that because it's an anime's a different interpretation of the Shenmue story.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to be presented the exact same way, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised that Goro had a more, and I don't want to say, every role is important in every, game or storytelling process, right?
Yeah,
But I was pleasantly surprised with how much his story was in the anime, how important it was in the anime, instead of just being like a little NPC guy that just shows up and is like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
So,
yeah. Because they give him a bit of a backstory.
yeah.
They develop his relationship with Rio a bit
Hmm.
more, and obviously it culminates at the end in the harbor. I won't spoil it for people who may not have watched this at this point, but I felt they gave Goro's character several layers that the game couldn't, and that's exactly what I
Which is
wanted.
surprising because the game is pretty lengthy, right?
It's huge,
It's
yes, it's
pretty
massive.
lengthy. So you would think, but out of like 14 hours of mini game trivial stuff,
Yeah,
right? They would just add but the games are great. The show is great, and extremely grateful and lucky to be a part of this of the story.
So, how long did it take you to pick up on Goro's key catchphrase, "Yo, bro"?
In my head, I think originally because I had this what the game was doing, right?
Yeah,
And then when we went in there, I think we just did a couple different ones, and the director's like, "We like that way the best."
yeah,
And I was like, "Great, and that's the way we're gonna do it." But it felt. I think the way the character was written and stuff, it felt pretty easy to slip into that character.
brilliant. And sort of talking about the character of Goro,
Mm.
what did you like about playing him and his character?
To be honest with you, I liked how kind of like carefree he kind of was, and he's kind of like, if Rio needed, money, he was like, dude, I'll just go beat somebody up.
Yeah,
Like, I got you, dude. Don't, like, didn't even think about consequences. Just so cocky and arrogant, and just like, oh no, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
he's
I'm with
got
you.
it down. And then when he doesn't have his when things are out of his control, he just loses his mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And then I like how when he's around Rio, he tries to be like this cool guy. You know what I mean? But I think he's constantly approval seeking. You know what I mean? He's trying to win over Rio's approval, kind of thing.
yeah, yeah, definitely. That's the vibe I got from it. Although I did feel a little bit sorry for Goro getting punched quite repeatedly by his by Mai, who ends up obviously his girlfriend in the games and the anime. I felt sorry for him. She knocks him about a bit.
That's life, man. That's life. But I think he needs that.
Yeah,
I
true.
think that he is just this. I don't want to say he's like a punk, but he is kind of a delinquent. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so, and it's funny to see that, like this little tiny girl, she can just, and she's more like of the backbone. She just slaps him around a little bit, and he takes it like a champ. I'd like to think he's tougher. Like there are
yeah.
times where I'm like, how is this guy, this big bad bully of the harbor, when like everybody's just thumping on him?
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I think he's what I'd call a lovable rogue. His heart's in the right place, even if
Yeah.
sometimes his methods might be questionable. He's a brilliant character, Goro. One of my personal favourites, anyway. So, sort of talking about your time in the studio playing Goro, how long were you in the studio recording your lines for?
Oh, man. I think initially I went in for like 9 hours or something like that, not at one time.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. I think because it was a while ago, but I think I went in 3 days straight and we worked on Goro. And then I had came back and we put in more time into, they were very careful. They did everything they could to make sure that they deliver a high quality product for everyone. So I think, if I remember correctly, we did 3 days of working on those scenes, and then I think we did maybe 3 or 4 more days where we did some pickups and things like that. So off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you, but I would say, at least maybe 4 or 5 days or something. I don't
Yeah.
remember off the top of my head, because there were times where I'd come in just for a couple hours to do, a few things or whatever, and then maybe I'd come back in like another week to do something else or something like that.
Excellent. I mean, it sounds incredibly thorough, which I think it shows in the final product itself. Having sat and watched the English dub of it, you can tell it's been done properly with a lot of care and very well written. I think is probably the way I'd describe it.
Yeah, what's funny, when I was watching it, I felt like they did a great job at representing the game and the game's storytelling process, but in an anime
Yes.
format. You know what I mean? Like, when you're watching the anime, it definitely plays like it's a game cutscene type thing, but
Mm.
it doesn't slow down from the storytelling process. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but
No, it makes absolute sense. I think what they've done very, very well with the anime is they've looked at the game and gone, right, what do we need? What's key here? Cut some of the game fluff, which you have to do because
yeah.
Shenmue is quite a slow paced game anyway. Given these characters more development, more time, and kept that story wheel going and going and going while adding some new bits that weren't in the games as well. And I think it complements they complement each other so well, the games and the anime.
Hmm.
And that's really, I think, one of the most impressive things about this anime. Actually, it's how successfully and how well they've treated the source material and how well it's translated to anime. It's amazing actually how well it's gone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are some parts, leading up to like the action sequences and everything, like, they did everything right. You know what I mean? Like, when you watch if you watch, like, if you play the game, or you watch like playthroughs of the game, and then you watch, the show, there are, periods where it's, it does play kind of like as if you were playing the game kind of thing, and how he, does his exploration, and how he interacts with other characters, and even his responses, you
Yeah,
know but then there's when it's go time, and then there's all those fight scenes. You know what I mean? Then it really has a lot of life to the show. So
definitely. And it's been incredibly well received, which we'll touch on in a minute. Are there any moments that stand out in your recording from Goro? Any particular time in the studio that really stands out? Some of your favorite moments as playing Goro?
for Goro, oh
Yeah,
man. So there was the time, the episode's out, right?
yeah,
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 episode's out. Okay. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but there's a in case anybody hasn't watched it, but there was a part where Goro is kind of showing Rio around the port and everything. Basically, he's kind of showing him the ocean, and he's like, this is the perfect spot for taking a leak. And it was funny because in my own head, when I read that line, I looked and I was like, that would be a good spot to take a leak. You know what I mean? Like, that seems kind of peaceful. So there was that, and then and again, I don't want to ruin anything for anybody who hasn't seen the episodes yet or not, but there was a scene where Goro has like this like meltdown thing or whatever he's doing. That was pretty fun. We took a couple different things at that. Tried it a couple different ways, and to keep it, you don't want to be too comical. You know what I
yeah,
mean? Where it didn't feel like it fit. But I think with Goro, they allowed me a little bit of freedom to kind of get a little over the top at times, because that's how they wanted him portrayed. Almost, I don't want to say like the comic relief,
yeah.
by no means, but just to kind of be this character-y type of character.
Brilliant. That's really, really cool to hear some of those moments. And I know the moment you're referring to when he sort of lost it, but I won't go into it because I
Yeah.
don't want to spoil anything. And the bit where you say about taking a leak, that made me laugh.
Yeah, yeah, that's pretty funny.
Made
Yeah.
me laugh quite a lot actually. So obviously you've heard of Shenmue and you know there's quite a following, certainly in the video game community. Before it came out, were you nervous of how it was going to be received?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. And I don't think I was nervous. I was excited.
Yeah,
And what I mean by that is that I know everybody who worked on the show has spent a lot of hours, a lot of time, a lot of effort into working on it. And I was excited because I knew there was going to be I knew that there was going to be a lot of people that were going to just be excited because it's, you know, it's something new for the franchise for them. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah.
But at the same time, realistically, we can't make everybody happy. Some
Hmm.
people are like, oh, well, that's not how I would have done it or what, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
was just excited for people to learn that they were going to be getting this animation. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
knew that it was going to be, I think I knew about it before they announced it, or maybe they had announced it and then I knew about it, but I don't think they had released a lot of detail when it was coming out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I think when they made this huge, was it New York Comic Con? I don't know. They played the first
Yes. Yeah.
trailer or
It was.
something,
Yeah. It was
right?
New
Yeah.
York Comic Con.
And then I think it was that moment when I saw like online people, like the hype was getting like real big. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, and I was like, just wait, guys, you're gonna be stoked.
God, I remember that New York Comic Con. I was streaming it, watching it for the community, and that
Yeah,
trailer, my jaw just dropped, and
yeah,
because it'd been quiet for about a year at that point because they
hmm
announced it. I think was it September 2020, if my memory's correct. Then we got nothing, 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 and then that trailer came out. Oh my word, did it blow up!
yeah,
Such a good trailer.
yeah. It was really good. It was really good. So
It
I
was
remember I saw the trailer. I was like, oh yeah, okay, cool.
so good, and I think they were very clever, I think, in the way they did that and held it back and then sort of got that hype train moving very quickly.
It's always fun to watch, like when they'll do like the breakdown videos in case you missed it, Easter eggs. And so it's always fun to go watch, and people will like do the frame by frames and they're trying to
Yeah.
like, ooh, what do we know about this? What do we know about that? That's always fun because, people are excited. I don't think they thought it was a new, a new story spin-off of his current. I think they knew that it was going to be a retelling of the game, right? But
Yeah.
it's always fun when people get excited to see their favorite characters, like, oh, that's always fun. I think I was getting excited with them.
Amazing. And then Goro comes in episode 3. Again, I won't go into how he comes in because if in case people haven't watched it, there was a massive outpouring, I think, of people going, they love the Goro character. How did that make you feel, seeing all of that sort of positive feedback around Goro and the anime in general? Because obviously the Shenmue means so much to so many people. How did it make you feel to see all of that real sort of positive vibes, positive feelings, and towards it?
I wasn't nervous. I was
Mm.
excited. But with that being said, there was some anxiety there because every episode, the momentum was just building and building, and people were just going, this episode is better than the last. You know what I mean? It just
Yeah,
kept
yeah,
following that, and people were just, and so I think the anxiety for me was, man, I hope this doesn't, I hope they enjoy it. You know what I mean? I was like, I hope
mm,
they like where the story's going. But a lot of those scenes were pretty big moments in the video game,
yeah,
like the whole forklift stuff and everything like that. And, and then I found out, people were stoked about it. Right.
yeah,
That, obviously that made me feel really good. I saw things online where people were like, yo, and this and that and everything. And so I felt good. And then I saw some negative stuff too. And I was like, oh my God, that's so funny. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, okay. But yeah, I mean, I think overall it was just, it was a good feedback. Everybody was pretty stoked about it and they weren't disappointed at all.
no,
And some people are like, yeah, well, it's different, but it's not bad. It's fitting. And they were happy to get more of a little more backstory on about Goro and stuff like that. So
yeah, definitely. And I think I speak for everybody in the Shenmue community that the job that you did on Goro is excellent. As I said earlier, I think it's a very accurate representation from the game, but with a twist on it, with a different take on it. And for me personally, looking at this anime, that's what I wanted, and that extra characterization, etc. I love seeing those sorts of things, and to see it done so well and treated with such respect, I think speaks volumes to the final product as well.
yeah,
So for me, I want to say thank you from the Shenmue community in taking that time to get to know the franchise, to get to know the characters. I know it seems quite silly because that's what you do, it's your job, but for us, it's a 20-year-old franchise, it means quite a lot. So to see it
yeah.
come out that way, I just want to say thank you. It's amazing.
Well, I am extremely appreciative and grateful. And again, I wish I could sit here and say, hey man, it was all me. but it really was truly a collaborative process between everybody involved, with both of the directors and the engineers, everybody,
Yeah.
and I am just grateful enough to, uh, be providing the voice for that character. But everybody worked so hard, the directors, the engineers, everybody. And again, I'm so glad that you're happy and everybody's happy with the character, and I'll forever be grateful. You know what I mean? And even just to be a small part of the storytelling process, it's very a humbling experience kind of thing.
Thank you. That's awesome to hear. And just a side question, because I know sometimes they get people in to voice multiple characters. Have you got any other characters in the Shenmue anime you voiced, or was it just Goro?
Let me ask you a question. Do you want to know that answer right now, or
Oh,
do you
okay.
want to know, or do you not want to know? I mean,
Well, we can play sort of bingo type things and see if we can pick out your voice in characters coming up. Maybe.
I do not want to confirm nor deny. Once it's all out, I will, then I'll answer anything you want.
Okay.
Um, but I mean, I'm not saying I am. I'm just saying that, does anybody want to know that right now? Or do they? Yeah. We'll see. I guess just keep an open ear. And who knows? Maybe don't be listening for Goro though. If you're listening for Goro, you may not catch it. So we'll see.
Well, that's not a denial either. So we'll park that there for now, and we'll come back to that when the anime's finished airing. So moving away from the anime, have you got any other projects that are coming out that you can talk about that you've been working on?
Okay. So in regards to anime, I have been working on some amazing projects lately, and I am just like just sometimes I just have to take a big breath and just be like, wow, I'm just so lucky. But I've been working on a few different projects that I can't talk about at the second,
Yeah, of
but
course.
I'm sure everybody will be stoked on those two that are fans of those, and that are familiar with those franchises and stuff. But so I have been working on some things. One thing is, I think it's getting closer to be announced, that I can talk about, but as of right now, I can't mention too much. But yeah, so I have been doing new stuff, and then as soon as I'm able to talk about those, I'll share them on Twitter. And but I am doing, I think, in addition to anime, I'm working on a Vietnamese film right now. Behind the camera stuff, I'm just doing uh, one of the fight coordinators for this Vietnamese film. And so, if you're familiar with the Ip Man movies with Donnie Yen, right? So it's the same distribution company, the same company that produces those movies. They're going to be producing this movie, and so I'm working on that one right now. And I think I'll be done with that by late June. So I've been
Okay, yeah,
pretty much every day kind of thing.
awesome. We'll keep an eye out for any announcements and any drops on your Twitter for sure. I'll be excited to see what else you've been working on. That sort of feeds into my final question. Do you have sort of a closing message for the Shenmue community?
I guess, I think any advice, or even advice I'd give myself, is that I know everybody's really passionate about, whatever it is, whether it's this or whether it's that or whether it's Star Wars. I would say the best way is just you know, to have an open mind and just be receptive to the storytelling process and just trust everybody that was involved. And I know sometimes it's kind of hard to do that, because
Yeah,
sometimes companies take a beloved franchise and it does not go how, the public wants it, it's not received well. So, but I can guarantee you that everybody worked really hard and was very considerate of all the characters, all the elements in the story, and bringing this to anime. So just sit back and enjoy it. I think that the it's not slowing down by no means. Every episode's getting better and better, and I don't want to ruin anything for anyone by no means, but I think everybody will be stoked with where it goes.
yeah, brilliant. That's a nice message to sign us off. And again, I mean, yeah, the anime has been up to this point, and we're just about to see episode 8 air tomorrow night. early hours in the morning actually here for us.
We're on episode 8 already?
We
Nice.
are.
Wow, I remember I circled the date of the premiere. I circled the date of the premiere and I was like, great. It's 2 weeks away. I remember I was like, oh, it's 2 weeks away. I can finally get ready to talk about it. And then I think they released a partial cast list.
Yes,
and I
they
was
did.
like, oh, I can talk about. And then I looked and like, my character didn't come until the 3rd episode. So they only released, a handful of cast members on there. And I was like, can't talk about it yet. So, but I was still excited, to see everybody, doing it and everything like that. But yeah, that's cool. Episode 8, right? I just remember thinking, I'm like, every week is going to be this exciting, journey and stuff like that. So that's cool.
Yeah, I can't believe we're on episode 8. It's gone so fast, so quick. It's flown by from watching the
Have they announced how many episodes? I don't want to spoil it. I mean, I know, but I'm just saying,
they did announce publicly 13.
Okay. That's what they said?
Yeah.
All right. Well, if that's what they said, I mean, I'm not going to confirm or deny it. I'm just saying. I don't know. They don't tell me nothing. So.
Well, if there's more than that, I'm all for it, because the anime, I think it speaks volumes in the quality, that from the reaction of the Shenmue community and wider of that, and I mean the fact it's trending on Twitter every week. I think speaks volumes for the quality, the time, the care that's gone into this, and you're a part of that. And as I said earlier, thank you for being such a part of that and taking the time to really invest in Shenmue and Goro. It is much appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure, and it feels weird to say like, oh, you're welcome, but I'm just excited and grateful, and as everybody else is, it's like it's a treat for me too. It's like, yeah, this is cool.
Thanks you. All right, James, all that remains for me to say is thank you so much for taking the time to join me on the Dojo interview series today. It's been an absolute blast having you on. I've loved it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been fun.
Pleasure is all mine. And for everybody else who's taken the time to listen to the interview series, again, thank you for dropping in and listening to us chat Shenmue. Don't forget to give us a like, share, and subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, and all the social media channels. And keep an eye out, because there will be more content and podcasts from us in the coming week. Take care. Goodbye, everyone.
Look at the time.